Broadcasting in the evenings on WCPT 820 Chicago's Progressive Talk. In the overnights, 1150 a.m. KKNW in Seattle, and right live in Minneapolis, St. Paul, AM 950, the Progressive Voice of Minnesota. It's the Matt McNeil Show for your Tuesday. The debate's coming up tonight. I wanted to get some content and context about what we should expect, and I've got a heck of a guest here. The junior senator from the state of Minnesota is Tina Smith. She is kind enough today to join us to talk about the debate and what's been going on in D.C. Senator, thank you very much. I appreciate the time.
Well, thank you, Matt. I'm really glad to join you and your listeners today.
I'm very glad to have you on the air with you. This is I think we were going to have you on one time, and then you got, obviously you're a senator, you're kind of busy, so you got pulled away. But I'm so grateful that you have some time today.
Well, thanks. It's great.
The debate tonight, obviously a lot has happened in the last 2 months. First of all, as you look at what Kamala Harris is going to be taking on here with Donald Trump, how do you feel she should approach this debate?
I think that Vice President Harris has a great opportunity to speak directly to the American people about their lives and what's happening with them and how she sees her role as president to help improve their lives. I think she can communicate so effectively that she's on their side and that she is ready to go to work to lower healthcare costs, to lower housing costs, to fight against these big corporations that are scamming renters right now, and to talk about the importance of our democracy. And she is focused on the American people, and I think in contrast, Donald Trump is focused on himself and his grievances. She's going to be talking about the way forward, and he's going to be talking about, himself. And I think her biggest challenge is going to be that we know in these environments, in these situations, I mean, let's be honest, in any situation, he just tells lies all the time. And so she is going to need to figure out a way of holding him accountable, but not get dragged into the cesspool of his thinking as she is really focused, as I know she is, on the lives of Americans and what they need.
It is a very odd debate style, but it's been successful for Trump. He throws a million lies out there. It becomes impossible to fact check them in real time, and he kind of overwhelms something there. It seems to me, though, that the vice president has done a very good job of harnessing, and courtesy of Governor Walz, the weird thing by basically saying, you're weird, and it kind of negates that. And plus, the appeal of joy, you can't deny that. I think the American people are tired of this angry bitterness, and they want some hope and joy.
Oh, I totally agree with that, Matt. And I think Americans don't want to sit for 90 minutes and just listen to Donald Trump throw all of his nonsense around. What they want to hear, they want to hear about, well, where am I in this? How is this going to help me? How is it going to help me raise my children? How is it going to help me, pay for childcare? How is it going to help me get my small business off the ground? And she is so good at that. And I think, to your point, there is great joy in fighting for what you believe in. There's joy in believing that we can make progress together and that we are, that we're not in this sort of dark spiral that he describes, but we are in a march towards progress and helping improve people's lives. And I think that is why she's going to be so effective. But here's the other thing that you can't underestimate about Vice President Harris is that she's a former prosecutor.
Yeah.
She has plenty of experience being in situations where she is confronting scammers and liars and people who are out there to rip you off and holding them accountable. And so I think it's going to be interesting for people to see that in motion, because a lot of people are still getting to know her, and I think they'll have a chance to see both her strength and her passion, and also her warmth and her connectedness today.
Absolutely. What issue, if there was an issue that you would like to get more specific details from the vice president about tonight, what issue would you be, okay, I want to hear it, what's going on here?
Well, I have a particular interest, as I know so many Minnesotans do, in housing and what we can do to bring down the cost of housing. And she has laid out some very, some really excellent ideas for how we can do that how we can make home ownership more affordable for people, and how we can go after the big private equity companies that are snapping up homes and turning them into rentals and making it harder for Minnesotans to afford their lives. And so I'm looking forward to her laying out in more detail what those ideas are. And, then in great comparison, I'm expecting that she will also lay out there what it is that Donald Trump, what his agenda is, and how in his Project 2025 sort of blueprint put together by his advisors that, their big ideas will make Americans' lives cost more. And their big idea is to, get rid of the Department of Education and to take away people's reproductive freedom. And, she can lay out what his ideas are, even if he's not capable of doing it because he wants to engage in personal attacks. And I think people will. I know Minnesota pretty well. I have a pretty good idea that they're gonna be looking at what it is that she's saying as being where they want to go.
And tariffs, that's a big thing of Trump. He doesn't understand how they work, because if you apply all these tariffs, all it's going to do is jack up the price of everything in this country immediately.
That's exactly right. His proposal to put an across-the-board tariff on goods that are imported from overseas, from China, for example, would, by some estimates, it would add up to $4,000, nearly $4,000 a year to the costs that Americans face. So that's taking us in the wrong direction. That's going backwards. We want to go forward. And he doesn't seem to understand that it's not as if a foreign country pays those tax dollars into the American Treasury and then we can use that to do stuff. No, that comes directly out of the pockets of American families.
Senator Tina Smith is joining us right now. Senator, you have obviously been in Minnesota politics a long time. How long have you known Governor Tim Walz?
Gosh, I think I first got to know Governor Walz when he was first running for Congress in the 6th District. So that was back in 2005, 2006. And if you'll remember, that the 1st District of Minnesota had been represented by Republicans for, basically like the last 100 years. And when Tim Walz stepped up, here he is, a high school teacher, never run for public office before, and said he was going to run for Congress. I think a lot of us were sort of like, well, that's interesting. Let's see how that goes. And of course, he won. And so, and I've known him well since then and have worked closely with him on so many issues, and was so proud of the work that he and Lieutenant Governor Flanagan and our legislature did to advance some really important priorities for Minnesotans. He's been a really exceptional leader.
His relatability. It's what's hilarious is watching the Republicans trying to go after him with stories of car sickness and straws, and he waves too much. They have no idea to attack this guy because he is the most relatable political candidate on a national stage I have ever seen in my life. He just like everyone that we sit down with at a barbecue, for goodness sakes.
He's just like normal.
Yeah,
and
very.
I think he's, and what I really appreciate about Tim is that, Tim is the same guy in your backyard as he is when he's talking to, 18,000 people in Milwaukee at a big rally. He is just like, he doesn't put on a face, and he's not, I think it's his plain spokenness. He doesn't sound like he's just, regurgitating talking points. He talks like a normal person. And I think that that's why Americans are going, who is this guy? How come I never knew about him before? It's exactly what you're saying.
I have a feeling tonight's going to go well for Vice President Harris. You agree? I think, concur with this, because I think that is the exact candidate you want to go take on a guy like Trump.
I think that she is so well positioned, but I also think we need to be realistic about this. The president, this is his 7th presidential debate, so he is very familiar with this format. And he also is adept at creating a circus and creating chaos. And that is something that anybody who debates him has to deal with. And I expect that she is ready for that, but I don't think we should underestimate how difficult it is to, as you said a minute ago, when you're debating somebody who is untethered from the facts, then and is willing to say practically anything, then it's a particular challenge when you're debating that kind of an individual.
Senator Tina Smith joining us. If I may ask one question about Senate business and what you're involved with, and I'm going to bring up housing. You brought that up here. One of the problems we're having in this country is obviously getting developers to build properties, and that is a metro area, suburban area, rural area problem. It is a problem that is hindering us right now. How do you look at contractors? What are some ideas that you have to look at contractors and say, you know what? I get everyone wants to build the McMansion, but we need to get these houses built. What do you do in the Senate to kind of help push that idea of getting more construction, especially in small-town rural America? How do we get that going?
Yeah, well, so we have a significant and severe housing shortage in this country, and as you say, it's in every community, small town, big town, rural community, and really, it started with the collapse, the foreclosure crisis in 2008, when the financing just fell out from under families and individuals, and also folks that build houses, and it's never really recovered. And so, these big developers and even smaller developers go to the place where they can make the most money, which is to go after the bigger houses. And as a result, there are not nearly enough places for people to live who are working families, and especially people that are working in low-wage jobs. And so I am doing a lot of work on this area right now, and I'd love to talk more about this with you in the coming weeks, but I think we need to look at ideas for how we can think about what we know how to do with community land trusts, where you have permanently affordable housing. You need significant new resources to build that housing because private development won't do it on its own. And then you need to hold accountable these big private equity and big private equity firms that are going in and buying up houses and turning them into rentals that have very poor maintenance records, and then in so doing, they are taking away opportunities for people to be able to either have a good rental or to buy their own home. So I think there's a lot of different things that we need to do, but I'm very interested in how we can what we can do at the federal government to help to build a lot more houses. And one thing I just want to say, because I live in Minneapolis, is that the work that Minneapolis and other communities have done to make it easier for more different kinds of housing to be built with local zoning reforms has been really important and is working. And we need to inspire more of that kind of local reform as well, so that we can build more duplexes and eightplexes and more, small houses, and some of the requirements around parking and other things that make building apartment buildings more expensive. By reforming those kinds of local policies, we can make a big difference too.
Absolutely, and I tell you what, and you brought up a great point. The zoning issues in each community are something we have to kind of look at. It's a complex issue. Anytime you want to come back and talk about it, my show is yours. Absolutely, Senator. And by the way, I want to say I did love your photos. You guys were up in the Boundary Waters canoe area. You relaxed from your Senate duties by getting really away from it. Nicely done.
Thank you. It was really fun to be. It was really fun to be in northern Minnesota, and it was great. It was great. I'm glad to be back in Washington, though. I'm really excited to be here.
I'm glad you're there too. I imagine you're watching tonight. I'll be watching tonight. Thank you so very much for your insights and thoughts on the debate tonight. Senator Tina Smith from Minnesota. Senator, as always, you're more than welcome back anytime you want to come here, okay?
Thanks so much.
My pleasure. Take care. Senator Tina Smith. Wow. That was, and I kind of threw that question about housing at her at the end. I mean, if I got a senator, I'm going to ask a Senate question. She's absolutely right. I mean, the housing issue has to be addressed on multiple levels. And she's right about the ripple effects of 2008's economic financial crisis still resonating today, still making it unappealing for developers to look at single-family housing or apartment complexes or duplexes. And on top of it, we've got a big zoning problem issue when it comes to communities across the country that communities themselves have to address that. So I want to have her come back on and talk more about that. Let's take a break. Come back, talk more about the debate and other things. It's the Matt McNeil Show here on your Tuesday.